When I was 17, my father made me a promise. "I'll pay for your college," he said, voice firm but warm. "Everything you need." I believed him. He didn't mention my stepbrother, Alex. He didn't mention the startup opportunity he was funding instead, the one that would take every last dime, earmarked for my tuition, and funnel it into Alex's ambitions. The day I received the letter from the university, the one stating my scholarship and financial aid had been denied, I thought I might cry. Instead, I stayed silent, angry in a way that demanded nothing immediate, nothing visible. I worked part-time, saved every cent, and learned early that if you want something, you take it yourself. Years passed. I earned my degrees, worked my way into financial administration, and eventually became a financial aid officer at a mid-sized university, a position where I could read the fine print, interpret policies, and approve or deny dreams with a simple click of a button. And I never forgot. Alex had spent the years flaunting wealth, showing off the success of his father-funded startup, bragging about opportunities I'd been denied. I watched quietly, patiently. Now it was my turn. The first time I saw his name appear on a financial aid application, I almost smiled. Alex Brantley undergraduate business program. I kept my hand steady. I looked at his submitted documents, verified the data, and reviewed the forms. Every number, every line, every justification, everything in his favor. And then I began my work. I didn't act out of spite in a visible way. I didn't send him threatening letters. I built systems, automated notifications, and carefully crafted policies that, to the casual eye, appeared standard. But they weren't. I created delays. I flagged minor errors as critical. I instituted new verification requirements, subtle obstacles that forced him to miss deadlines, to provide additional paperwork, to stumble over bureaucracy he had never understood. Every rejection, every delay, every administrative barrier was invisible to the outside world, just numbers on a spreadsheet, policies on paper, denied or incomplete in the system. But each one carried the weight of years of stolen opportunity. By the end of my first year in this position, Alex had applied to 3 programs. All 3 denied. All 3 paused, delayed, questioned. All 3 quietly closed their doors, and he didn't know why. I watched from my office silently, as his father called him, questioning why the funding wasn't going through, why the grants had been denied, why the loans were problematic. He had no idea that I was behind it, that the girl who had been robbed of a future by the same man was now controlling every gate to the world Alex had taken for granted. I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. I felt the slow, quiet satisfaction that comes from knowing justice, in its most precise and intimate form, had been served. The following semester, I refined the system. I wasn't reckless, I never was. Revenge is most effective when it's invisible, when it feels like chance or circumstance rather than design. I created automated flags for every application that matched Alex's profile, slightly lower GPA thresholds, additional recommendation requests, missing document warnings. On paper, everything appeared legitimate. Auditors would see policies followed, procedures enforced. No one could accuse me of misconduct. But Alex, my stepbrother, the one who had been given everything at my expense, was starting to stumble. The first application I blocked was for a summer research grant. It looked perfect on paper. Stellar grades, glowing references, clean finances. Everything. Yet, my system flagged it. The automated email read, "Application incomplete. Missing advisor signature. Please resubmit within 7 days. 7 days." By the time Alex received the notice, the deadline had passed. The program closed. He emailed his father. He called. He begged. I read every message silently. I forwarded nothing. I let the system's logic handle it. By the time anyone realized there had been a problem, the opportunity was gone. I did this again. And again, and again. Each rejection was a tiny surgical strike. He never knew it was me. To him, life simply seemed unfair. Luck had abandoned him. The world had decided he wasn't qualified, and he never questioned the processes he had taken for granted. I started using my knowledge of his personality against him. Alex always rushed. He hated paperwork. He loathed details. So I engineered obstacles requiring meticulous attention, forms with small, easy-to-miss errors, extra verifications for financial eligibility, letters sent to addresses he didn't check daily. Every misstep meant delays. Every delay meant doors closing. He had no idea that the girl he had ignored, whose tuition he indirectly received, was orchestrating his downfall in silence. By the end of the year, Alex had applied to 5 more programs, all 5 denied, some for financial reasons, some for procedural ones, some for lack of timely submission. He became frustrated, anxious. The man who had coasted through life on charm and connections now faced invisible barricades. His father began to intervene. Calls, emails, meetings with administrators. He questioned the system, demanded explanations. Each time I responded with calm professionalism. Policies were followed. Rules were enforced. Nothing could be traced back to me. And I watched quietly as the tension began to crack him. The stepbrother who had never known limitation, who had taken without asking, who had thrived at the expense of my education, now struggled against a bureaucracy he could not bend. He didn't know it was me. He didn't know that every obstacle had been placed by the person he had wronged. And in that quiet, meticulous way, my revenge felt complete. By the 3rd year, Alex was unraveling. At first, he blamed himself. He missed deadlines, forgot signatures, overlooked forms. Then he blamed the system, bureaucracy, red tape, errors beyond his control. He didn't know the truth, that every email he ignored, every delay he cursed, had been orchestrated, carefully curated, and silently enforced by the sister he had once dismissed. It began subtly. A scholarship application denied for a technicality. A loan request delayed until the semester had already started. A residency verification that took weeks longer than it should have. Each act was invisible, imperceptible to anyone but me. I watched him grow desperate, sending frantic emails to his father, pleading for intervention. He spent hours tracking down signatures, resubmitting forms, correcting small mistakes, and still, opportunities slipped through his fingers. The cracks began to show in his confidence. He had always been sure of success, of doors opening for him automatically, of favors arriving as if by fate. Now he second-guessed every choice. "Something's wrong," he muttered one night over the phone with his father. "I don't understand. I've done everything right, Dad, everything, and it keeps failing." I smiled quietly in my office. He didn't know that the one person who had been systematically denied years ago was now the architect of his failure. I escalated subtly. I introduced additional verification processes that appeared standard. Minor policy changes that delayed approvals, slight increases in minimum GPA requirements, which didn't apply broadly but affected his applications. Nothing that could be traced back to malice. Everything hidden beneath the guise of administrative procedure. Alex grew frustrated, anxious. He started calling administrators repeatedly, demanding explanations. He argued, negotiated, tried to charm his way through the system as he always had. Nothing worked. His father began to realize that money could no longer fix things. "I've funded everything," he exclaimed. "I don't understand. Why is he being denied?" "It's not a question of money," I said quietly in my office one evening, reading his latest appeal. "It's a question of process." And that was all I ever needed to say. By the end of the academic year, Alex's confidence was shattered. The man who had once flaunted privilege and opportunity now faced his own inadequacy, a truth he couldn't buy, charm, or manipulate away. He started missing meetings, submitting incomplete forms, even questioning whether he deserved success at all. All because I had patiently, quietly, invisibly reclaimed what had been taken from me. The revenge was complete, not violent, not dramatic, not visible, but total, precise, surgical, and Alex didn't even know it had been me. The final year of Alex's applications arrived like a storm I had anticipated, but waited patiently for. He had exhausted every opportunity I could think of, every loophole he could exploit, every favor his father could buy. I had built the system to adapt, to anticipate, to block him at every step. Now it was time for the finishing touch. He applied to a prestigious graduate program, one that would define his career. He submitted spotless documents, letters of recommendation, and polished essays. Everything looked perfect on paper. Everything, that is, except for me. I introduced a single innocuous variable, a minor discrepancy in his financial verification forms. A difference of a few dollars between reported assets and his declared tuition eligibility. Insignificant. Easily overlooked by most, but my system flagged it automatically. Application on hold. Financial documentation requires correction. Deadline, 72 hours. And I waited. Alex panicked. He called the university offices, his father, even former professors. He submitted corrected paperwork multiple times. But each submission triggered another automated check. Citizenship verification. Residency confirmation. Minor clerical corrections. Every time he thought he had solved the problem, another obstacle appeared. He began to crumble. Emails from the admissions office grew more desperate. Calls became frantic. And still, he never suspected me. I watched quietly as the final decision approached. Every applicant in the system would receive either acceptance or denial. Most of them fair, some late, some perfect, and Alex denied. No explanation beyond a standard procedural note. Application incomplete. Please reapply next cycle. Nothing personal. Nothing traceable. Nothing dramatic, but devastating. He called his father first, begging for intervention. "It's the system," his father said helplessly. "I don't know why it won't approve him, and I didn't intervene. I didn't need to." That evening, I sat at my desk and looked at the final denial in the system. Alex would no longer have access to the wealth, the opportunities, the doors that had been opened for him at my expense years ago. Not because I had stolen anything, not because I had lied or cheated, simply because I had finally balanced the scales. I leaned back and let the satisfaction wash over me. Not revenge and anger, not rage fulfilled, but justice. Quiet, patient, inevitable. Years later, when I reflect on that period, I think about the precision of bureaucracy, the small, deliberate power it gives someone who knows how to use it. I think about fairness, delayed and measured. And I think about Alex, confident once, careless, entitled. I never told him it had been me. Some lessons are best learned in silence, because sometimes the most enduring victories are the ones no one sees coming.